recently dropped in the ESPN top 10 rankings for each position voted on by players, scouts, coaches, and executives. Last year, he was number 5. This year, he falls to number 9. Jumping him, moving to number 5, actually, is former Pittsburgh Steeler Javon Hargrave, who did not make the list last year. He turns 30 years old, made his first Pro Bowl 2 years ago. Shout out to him. Glad that he's on the rise. Just signed a mega deal with the San Francisco 49ers. Meanwhile, Hayward falls to 9. One of the quotes was that you saw the decline, that you saw Father Time starting to catch Cam Hayward over the course of last season. Obviously, he did start slow, but he had a 10.5 sack season. You know, it's really tough to sit around and say Cam Hayward doesn't have the juice left. It's easier, I think, to say maybe everything around him didn't really work out the way that the Pittsburgh Steelers hoped that it did. Do you think that you think that Cam Hayward's starting to fall off, or you think that maybe Father Time still doesn't have his grips on this guy yet?
Well, so when I first looked through this list, I was like, okay, 9th for Cam Hayward. That maybe sounds a little bit low, like in my head. Mm-hmm. Then you look at some of the names and you're like, okay, that's not as far off, I guess, as I thought. I think he's better than a few of these guys, but a lot of them you can't really argue with. I agree with you. I thought the reasoning was kind of weird. Like, that's for whatever reason you think Cam Hayward should be number 9th, his age, I don't think that's, I don't know. He's producing at the same rate as he was, when he was younger over the past few years. Like, he's been pretty consistent. He's pretty durable. He doesn't miss any time, really, if any. He doesn't miss much time, if any, at all. Like, I think this story says he missed 2 games since 2016.
Yeah.
Like, that's, and his 23 quarterback hits were a tie for his career high. Like, I don't understand where that he's getting older, but it doesn't mean what you're saying it means. It doesn't mean that he's getting worse or that he's slowed down. I mean, the proof is in the numbers. So I didn't understand that. Like, 9th, whatever, but yeah, I think the reasoning is a little off.
Yeah, I agree. And you look at the name, and I agree with you, like Aaron Donald, Chris Jones, Jeffrey Simmons, Quinnen Williams, Javon Hargrave, I think is maybe the iffy one there, but I like Javon Hargrave. I'll appreciate his play, so I'm cool with him sitting at 5. Dexter Lawrence, DeForest Buckner, Darren Payne, and then Cam Hayward. Like, I feel like that list is not bad, but again, the reasoning behind it is exactly what you said. There is a pretty significant difference between getting old and getting worse. And Cam Hayward has defined Father Time, and every year we will analyze him as critically as possible because he's hit that point in his career where it's like any bad moment could be the beginning of the end. Like, that's where we're at with Cam Hayward. But there weren't those moments, like, at all. At the beginning of the season, he started slow, but game 1 he looked good. TJ goes down. The entire defense, the entire team as a whole looks awful. On top of that, people have a very hard time when talking about the Steelers defense and certain players in particular saying, okay, well, the defense looked bad. It didn't look as good as normal. Well, the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and this is just Cam Hayward, who has not played 100% of the snaps. The highest he's played in a season since in the last 5 years is 83% of the defensive snaps, has played over 800 snaps per season. 2 years ago was 955 snaps. So the wear and tear and the exhaustion on these guys' bodies is real. Like, the Steelers offense has been so bad that every week is a talking point of, do you think it's going to help when the offense is on the field longer? Do you think it's going to help when the running game's working and the Steelers, Kenny Pickett could hold on to the ball and, you're not running back and forth onto the field every 4 plays? Like, do you think that helps you play better? And every single week that's being brought up. So I think, yes, like, did Cam Hayward look like it was his best season last year? No. Did he look like he was the same monster that he's been for the last 10 years by the end of the season? Yes. Does the offense hurt him significantly and never get talked about? Also very much so, yes.
Yeah. I completely agree with all of those points. And I don't know, I get it. Everyone wants to be the first to be like, oh, yeah, we saw this moment where Cam Hayward looked old, where he looked like he had actually lost a step. But, like, until you actually see it, until you actually have some evidence that it is his age that is the sole sole reason why he's slowed down at any point. I don't know. You can't like say the. And I also thought the quote was really vague. It was like we thought we thought he's starting to decline last year, which is to be expected given his age. I You can think that, but I'm just not. I don't think that's true. Like I don't think you watch Cam Hayward on a weekly basis and think he looks slower by the eye test, and the numbers like back it up to a certain extent. And I just also think for all those reasons you listed, the reason the way the Steelers got better this year, like both sides, offense, defense got a little deeper. This should be a better year. In fact, like this should be a fresher Cam Hayward. This should be, each one of his reps is going to be more intense because he's spending less time on the field, because he doesn't have to be the guy when TJ Watt is out. There's so many reasons why age 35 season can be so much better than age 34. Or is he 34? He's going to be 34. I don't know. But either way,
now, I believe.
I don't know when he turns 35, but I don't know. I think there's much more reasons for optimism than there is for pessimism. The pessimism is we're counting on it, and the optimism is we can see it coming. Like there's actual tangible reasons why he could be better.
Yes, that's exactly it. Like that's exactly it. People just look at it's the Pittsburgh Steelers for one, and they don't get as much as. Like, I hate to be that guy because I'm sure that it's with every single organization. And I'm sure that growing up a Patriots fan, like you saw it with the Patriots, just as much as everybody sees it with the Steelers. But it is frustrating when people who do not watch the Pittsburgh Steelers on a daily basis try to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, because it's very clear that nobody's sitting around watching a team who is the most boring offense in football, who's terrible, who doesn't have a flashy, sparky defense anymore. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. If I didn't have to watch them and I wasn't a fan of them, I would not watch them at all, because they are a very boring football team for the last, I don't know, 3 years, maybe, since the 2020 season. And that was the COVID year, and nobody cared about it. Like, it was a weird situation then, too. It's hard to sit back and truly talk about a guy like Cam Hayward when you've just done your film study on him. You know what I mean? Or you've watched a handful of this or a handful of that. And I bet you that if, Carl Dunbar, who was probably in that list, or Mike Tomlin, who was probably in that list, and some executive from the Pittsburgh Steelers offense probably only had incredible things to say about Cam Hayward. Whereas in, those who watched a game or two, especially if you played him early in the season, you have a different outlook on that. And I think that's the misconception you get with Cam Hayward and with everybody else, but agreed. There are plenty of reasons that this year can be way better than last year. It starts with TJ Watt, but I mean, hey, week 8 rolls around, Aaron Donald walks into town, and man, Cam Hayward can have the greatest year he's ever had ever. Because there is you just can't like, what are you, if you're an offensive coordinator, first off, you already have negative thoughts about Cam Hayward because he's 34 years old, and Aaron Donald's lined up on that defensive line, TJ Watt's lined up on that defensive line, and then maybe Alex Highsmith and Larry Ogunjobi are having great years too. And you're telling me that Cam Hayward's getting double teamed? No, Cam Hayward's facing a rookie, and he's having at least a sack every single game.
Yeah, he might get like single coverage on a running back more often than he gets double teamed. Like it's going to be that. It would be that deep, and it would be that much of a problem for other offenses.
It just can't. It would just be unstoppable. So the optimism, like you said, very, very, very much so there.